folks. I'm at the old original home place where my family settled, best we can tell, in the early 1840s. And back up here behind me, you can see that big barn up there. That's what we're gonna go explore. And there's some details about it I wanna share with you. I hope you enjoy it. We wanna give a special holler out and thank you to Chris, Miles, Georgia, and Donnie, our neighbors and friends, for allowing us to come down, walk around and look and film part of their place here and check out this barn. So thank you, folks. We appreciate you. Now, from what I've been able to tell, to the left side of the old house up here is where, somewhere in this area right here is where the original cabin site was. I don't know exactly where it was at, but from everything I can find out, it was somewhere right in that area right there. This up here was an old log smokehouse that they had. What we can tell, that's where the old original cabin was. And it's got some significance to this old barn up here that we're gonna go look at. So I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But that's the old barn right there. Let's go check it out. This is the barn. I don't know what year this thing was built. I'd say late 18s probably. There's a few details on this barn that I want to show you. It's got the stacking strips where they stack the lumber to dry it. Lattice work, like on some of the other ones that I showed you. "12-pitch roof with a big gable. And everybody had their own different style of how they done the lattice work. This one is kind of a alternating back and forth, and then you got the weatherboard siding up in the very top gable. But you got the lattice. Come here, Lulu, come here. But you got the lattice work. You can see that stuff is old, old, old. This one's sitting on pillars on this outside wall right here. Rock pillars. I don't know if this end has always been closed in. It looks like it's weathered about the same as everything else, so it's possible that it has been. Over here on this side. Continues around with the lattice work, and the hallway comes through where the stalls are. Like a lot of the old ones, it has a back hallway next to the rock wall. Then it has a log stalled section here, then another open hallway, then a log stall section here, and then an open hallway on the outside. Like most of them was built that I've showed you on here. See here. Just sitting on rocks. Hand-hewed logs with the dovetail notches. You can see how these things have weathered over the years. Look how deep the weather has pitted these things. And this is the side too that catches all the sun. That's seems like that side that catches the sun is always twice as bad on the condition as everywhere else. some of the things I wanted to show you in this barn. The old original log house that my family built in the early 1840s when they settled here. It's set over on the other side, from what I understand, of this old existing house that's here now. Something I wanted to show you, if you'll notice, good place here to show you. The main logs that hold up the floor joist, you see these notches? See these notches right here with these peg holes? And right here's one with a peg still in it. Right here's another one. And another one. This would have been on the old log house. As far as I know, this is right now, built in the early 1840s. This log would have been the top log for the log cabin. And what these notches are, that is where the rafters were notched in. That notch right there is where the rafters had a notch. It would sit down in there, and then it was pegged through so that it couldn't kick out. And that's what held the roof up on the old existing log cabin. That was, I think, pretty sure from the 1840s. And you can see this other log over here, same thing. So they reused the logs out of the old cabin, tore it down when they built this barn, so they wouldn't have to hew these long logs to hold up these floor joists. And just like all the old barns, it was a 4-log crib style, which means this crib right here is log. This crib is lumber, because originally this was open through here. It was open between these two log, and then over here on this side you got another log style. Originally it was open between these. That's how my great-grandpa's barn was, which I have not showed you yet because it was dismantled and reconstructed on a university site. So we're gonna make a trip and go see that one sometime, hopefully this summer, and I'm really looking forward to it because I've never been there to see it. They took his old house down in that old barn before I was born, and I know where it's at. We just gotta go check it out. It's not too far away. I'm looking forward to seeing that with you. And then on this other log right here, looking at it from this side, you can see these notches really good. Where the rafters was notched in with a wooden peg right there that held them in place. Ain't that something? That's just, it's hard to fathom these logs being that old. Now, evidently, you can see right here how this is notched. This log is notched right there. So that would have been the top side where the notches are. This would have been the bottom side. That makes me think, and it looks like a remnants of a peg right there. That makes me think that there would have been a doorway or a window that was right under this log right here. Could have been upstairs. I don't know if the cabin was 2-story or not, or had a loft in it, but that makes me think there was a window or a door on the bottom side of this log. So using these big long logs, they didn't have to, out of the old cabin, they didn't have to hew too many big logs for this barn, because all the stall logs are fairly short. They're maybe 10 foot long. You can see where over the years, and these goats that are in here, they've rubbed against this, and it's just as slick as glass, where they've rubbed on it, scratched and walked. As you can see, nails had a lot of use for hanging different things up. Here somebody's plugged a knot hole with a corn cob. And then the main supports that go up to hold the roof, you can see they've come through the floor and it's sitting on top of this log right here. We'll move over here. Hopefully we don't have to stave off no billy goats. Hey there, what are you doing in there? Oh. Here's another one. Look at them horns. Wow. Look at them horns. Now right here you can see this is where they would have probably, I imagine they would have thrown something out of the loft. They could have forked hay up from a sled down here, forked it up into the loft. I don't know if they done that or if they fed out of that hole down here, but I would imagine they could have probably brought a sled around to get into the back side of the barn. You can see these logs. Look at the details here. They chopped them out with an axe. Usually always got the bark off, because if you don't, that causes bugs. Now up here you can see this main beam right up here. You can see these notches really good. This is what I was trying to show you earlier. That rafter come down and it was notched and it would set in here and it couldn't kick out. And then they had the peg that come in from this side to hold it. Peek in here. That's one of the long logs that goes all the way down through there. It's got the rafter notches, so I don't see any joints in that thing. That would have been a big log cabin. Based on how long these logs are. They go, if none had been cut off. That's the outer hall where we was, out there. And you can see that log goes through here all the way to right here. And it's got a half lap notch right here tying it in. But that's that original log. I'd say that's probably 20 foot. This is most likely, these are most likely original logs out of the house, because see these big holes right here? That's where they had pegs for some reason. A lot of times they would drive pegs to hold up different things, to hang different things on that they needed to hold up or hang different things that they was needing. Right here's two big holes that they bored in this log. That might have been in the cabin, it might have been in the barn hallway, you don't know. And here's where the timber comes from upstairs down and sits on top of this log to help hold the roof up. Now, like always, every barn had its own distinct latch design. Everybody that done it seemed like they had a different idea, but this is just mortised through the door frame. And it's notched underneath the frame that holds the door together so that it can slide up and down, see, to lock the door on an angle. It had a peg at one time right here, looks like. Looks to me like it would have been a little bit of a, oh, I see. Right here, this hole right here, that is where the peg went through. And there would have been a peg sticking out on this side that you could work by hand to unlatch this latch from outside the stall. A lot of times they would do this right here, this little notch. They'd have a box inside on the stall. Hey, what's your name, huh? What's your name? We can call you Snagglehorn, maybe. Call you Snagglehorn, is that all right? You're friendly, ain't you? Thank you for being friendly. We won't bother you too long here. What I was saying, this hole right here, they'd be able to put an ear of corn in there to feed their horses or whatever they had in there. They could just slip an ear of corn right through there, and they had a box inside that would catch it. Now here's this center beam. You can see it wasn't too big. That ain't but about barely 6 inches by 6 inches holding the floor up upstairs. And this is where it was half out to that original log cabin beam that went to the outside. Right here's what I was telling you. These holes that you see in these logs, they'd drive a big peg in there, and they'd usually hang their gears and their harness for their horses on that. That's what they done with that. Here you can see where that peg would have went in that hole right there. It's been broke off, and you could slide that up to unlock this stall. And something else they used quite a bit was bars. I don't know, it looks like they had bars here at one time, but the bars would lay in this notch, come over here in another notch, maybe there, I don't know. Come over here, and they just had bars that they could put in there and block a section off. Right here you can see more of these big pegs holding everything that they'd need to hang up out here. This stall door down here, somebody put what they call a button latch on it at one time. There you can see the little peg latch on that door is still there. Slide that peg up to unlatch the door. I don't think this is no, this is not a original beam right here, because I can see the notch right there where it's half lapped. See if we can open this stall right here. This is that peg I was telling you. You just lift that peg up. It allows you to be able to open the stall door. You see they had a manger right over here for their hay. Trap door up there in the floor somewhere. You can see. Now right here, I would say these logs or these square notches, I'd say that's part of the old original cabin as well. It looks to me like that's what it would be, because I don't see no use for them to have them notches where they're at there. Hey, Goaty. Let's see, we'll take a peek in this right here in this stall. Now right down here, there's not hardly room right there. They might be room to stick an ear of corn in there, but then like I was telling you, see, they got their little feed box right here to catch that ear of corn so their stock can eat it, and they don't have to open up the door or do nothing specific to feed them. Just walk through the hall of the barn and slip it through. This goat here's about to eat my britches off. Quit that, I gotta have them. Can't be running around with my britches tore off on these videos. All right, let's see. What else do we spy here? There's another hole that they bored through for an old peg. There's a round notch on that log. There's another hole up here that they bored in that top log, a big hole. I know that's not original to the barn, that log laying right there, because you can see the end of it right here. It's got a half lap notch with a big peg hole in it. So most likely that come off of the old cabin. They got their manger here, their feed box over here. put their hay down from the trap door up here right into the manger. You can see how slick all this wood is from animals rubbing on it. It's just as slick as a whistle. Watch out, Goaty. Let me out. Let me get out here, Goaty. I don't know if I can go through this other. See if we can go through this stall right here to get back on the back side. I know it's open all the way. It won't open too easy. Watch out, Goaties. Watch out. Watch out, Goaties. Now getting it closed back might be the... No, it's pretty easy. Alright, we're in here in the dark with the goaties. Hey, goaties. Whole slew of them here. Just looking around for details. Now this manger is a little different style. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's up. So the trap door and the hay would come down and it would be up it to where they'd be pulling the hay down. Nothing to catch it from going on the ground. The animals just pull it out between the gaps in the manger slats. This wall is open right here. I don't think that's original. It comes into this back hallway. Right here's an example of how they would have had bars. The bars would have just slipped right in here and this between the logs, and this would have held the bars from going side to side. There's enough right there for 3 different bars. 1 down there, 2, 3. And then they would have went into, they probably had holes over here in this rock wall, maybe there, maybe down there to hold the bars. And that purpose of this rock wall, I've decided, and been a couple people comment about it on other barns, was, or at least I think they did, this rock wall, it kept the main part of the structure away from the earth. Like this would be a damp spot back here, and that rock wall, it held up the back side of the barn and also kept the structure dry to keep it from rotting. Let's see here. It's always tells a tale when you look at all these chops and notches, how it's done. It's just all, they're always different. It's always real interesting. But this is the upper 2 log stalls, one over there, one right here. This kind of shows you how it was original. That hallway going through the middle would have been opened and most likely not closed in. Sneak out here. Sheepies. Alright. Going around to the upper side. Originally this barn would have had a wood shingle or board roof on it. Would not have had metal, because they didn't have metal when this was built. If they did, it wasn't up in this holler. Back here you can see the pattern on the lattice work. Like I said, about every one of them was different. Just opposite back and forth. Here's something that I hadn't seen anybody else do. They run these scantlings out. These 2x4 scantlings, flatways, to hold up the soffit board under the roof there. I've not seen that done before that way on these old barns. Here's an old blacksmith. Let me get this off. That's not blacksmith made. Here's an old blacksmith made latch right here that they would have made on the forge. A little curl on it here, you can see. Open up the doors here. They're made about typical of the old doors. What I see something they've done You can see how they notched out for these bolts. The bolts wasn't long enough to bolt the hinges on. Look at that notch they've made right here. Get that bolt head down lower. Something here that I don't know why they done, or if they made a mistake hanging them or what, but no, I guess not, because that's longer on that center. These braces right here, they're not supposed to go from up at the hinge here down to the outside. They're supposed to go from the hinge here to the upper side to hold up on that door to keep it from ever sagging down. See, this one's the same way. It comes from the upper side down to the, it's supposed to be opposite. It's supposed to go from the hinge side up here so that that door cannot sag down on the center. Now their uprights inside here are round, just round trees. They've not been hewed. They might have been chopped, the bark's been chopped off, but they've not been hewed square like most of them. I'm gonna wait a minute till he gets done sawing so you can hear me good. We'll just put a pause on it right here. What? That may be going on for a while. I may just keep talking. I guess that's looks like a fertilizer distributor. Right here's how you open the gate. Put the fertilizer out. It's got the twisters on it, throwing the dirt to the inside. I don't know. Maybe that was to cover taters with. I don't know. This wheel would have been running down the road. So maybe that was just to side dress with, I guess. Somebody may have some input on that. Right here is a big tongue out of something, I would imagine. See how long it is. It might have went with this big sled over here. Now these big sleds are what everybody used in the mountains here. To get around, they hauled everything on them. They hauled wood, they hauled rocks, they hauled their crops, corn, everything on these sleds. It's the way they built. You see these standards sticking up right here. That goes through here down into the runner. That's the runner. This is called a half sole on this runner. It's called a half sole. They sold it with this board right here. When this board wore out, they could replace it, and the sled runner would not get wore out. And then out here on the end of the sled, they'd find them a tree that had a crook at the base, and that's what they made the sled runner out of, so it would ride up on the front end. And this is half-soled right here. They got this half-sole board coming back. When that wore out, they'd just replace it. That's a big sled. Big sled. Take a team of horses to pull that. But these sleds they used on the side of the hills, and they never had to worry about them turning over or running away with their horses or mules, because they just slid on the ground. Now over here they had their big corn crib. They got another old corn crib outside, but here's a big corn crib that they had. Instead of usually they have a big long door at the top, they had two smaller doors, one there and one there. I imagine that would have been hard to throw corn in unless they just dumped it in with a basket or something. They usually shut corn out here, and they had a big wide door at the top. They'd throw it in, it was easy to hit, but these wouldn't be so easy to hit with a ear of corn as the big wide long door would. Yellow corn over there, white corn over here, or vice versa. Looks like this one is a smaller section. I don't know if that would have been for their stock. Most likely the bigger section would have been for their stock or yellow corn. And this would have been for their bread corn or white corn over here on this side. You can see they've angled the cover on top and got rat wire. All sides are covered with rat wire to keep the varmints out of their corn. They could get in there and get it like that. This right here is a backer setter. I've rode one of these a lot of days in my life. You lay your backer plants in these trays, 2 people rides it, one here, one there. As it travels along behind the tractor, these fingers right here are rotating around and they're coming down right here, and you sit here and you just lay your plants right here with the roots sticking out here just a little bit, and it'll, when it goes down between these two metal fins right here, these paddles, right, these wires here on these paddles, they close that, and it pinches that plant to hold it, and it goes down and drops it down in the dirt, and then it closes the dirt back up around it. And then you got your water barrel here to give the plants a drink of water every time it drops one, it waters them. So you're going along behind the tractor, and these wheels are turning like this, and you're sitting back here, and these fingers are continually coming around, and they're closing up on them plants. When they come down to right here, you lay that plant in there, and they close up on it, and they pinch that plant right there to hold it together, to hold that plant until they take it down and drop it in the dirt. And they're moving pretty fast. It's about all 2 people can do to keep up with it. Here's an old box they had up here for something, maybe wheat. A lot of times they kept a wheat box in the barn loft. Might have been for wheat. There's a mowing machine right over here that goes on your tractor. You can see this construction in here with these round poles. It goes up to what's been solid lumber for the main beams, holding the rafters up at the midpoint. A lot of them's hewed in some of the big barns we've looked at. And then you got the tier poles to hang the backer in. When they started growing backer crops, they would hang it in here. Got a double tree hanging up there that goes behind your horses or mules. One mule hooks or horse hooks right behind this one or in front of this one. And there's another on this side right up there that hooks over here. And then this center point is what you would hook to whatever you was pulling. It kind of spreads it out. Now look at this post. Look at the sag or the swag in that post. They just used whatever they had, didn't they? Now the fellow that lives down in the old house now, Chris, he's a neighbor and a friend, and he does a school here. It's Sunny Truth Farm School. And he has summer programs. Virginia's been down a few different years to kind of help with the smaller kids, and she really enjoyed that. He does a good thing. He gets these kids out. They learn all kinds of things about the farm and out in the woods and nature and play in the creek. It's really good what he's doing here. And also, in the summertime, they use this barn loft for some of their lessons and their playtime and whatever they're doing. And this is just, I mean, you think about me, I love these old buildings. If I could have had some school time in a barn loft like this, I mean, I have had plenty of it. Trust me, I'm having it right now, but you know what I mean. I would have just absolutely loved that. But here you get a view of what the barn loft looked like originally when it was built. All these little round tier poles in here was not in here. This was open. They loose stacked hay as high as they could in here. There was nothing in the way. That's why they had this frame up to hold everything in place. And it was open so they could stack whatever they wanted to in here. Wheat, hay, whatever. This is that opening that they could, I would imagine it looks like they got a little corral made up. See this board and these sides? I would imagine they would have thrown something up from outside and stored it right here, and that was just an easy place to throw it up. Or like I said, it could have been opposite. They could have thrown it out from here. Don't know, nobody to ask. Right here's one of the doors that goes down to the stalls down underneath, but they could drop hay down into the manger. Up here's two more. Let's see. That's pretty special right there. It looks like this is for 3 animals. You've got one single tree over here, one here, another one over here, and your center point where your clevis goes to hook is off center. Looks like it's directly behind the center animal. So this looks like you got a single tree, a double tree. This must be a triple tree. I've never seen one. But I don't know what else it could be because that center clevis point is right dead center behind that middle animal. Boy, ain't that sweet. That is special. I've not seen that, but you can see right here some art supplies. The way the lathing is under the metal, that's because they had a wooden roof on here. Goats are coming in. They may not be welcome up here. I better skid them back out. All right. These tier poles right here, you can see it was just cut, nailed up here to hang backer when they started farming backer. Back in the 20s, I guess, teens and 20s. But it looks like all the uprights up here are round. They have had the bark chopped off, but they're not huge square like most of them are. This is interesting, this little 4x4 that goes across from the lower scantling studs to the upper. It's been hand hewed, a little 4x4, maybe even less than that. But it goes all the way across the barn, and it was hand hewed with an axe. Maybe I get in the right spot, you can see the chop marks pretty good. But it goes all the way across from one corner of the barn all the way across to the other corner. Here's two manger openings to put hay down into the mangers right here. And this floor, I tell you, you can see the wire. I think you can see this in the camera, but this floorboard may be a little warped, but it is wore with a hump on it right here. A lot of times on lumber, you'll see that the softer parts have wore off and the knots and the harder parts have stayed up. So it gives a kind of a ripple effect. They're wanting to come in here and prowl around. I guess that's about all. See old Miles down there, he keeps an eye on everything going on, which is good. That's good for a young feller to do. I think that's about it up here. Like I say, every barn's a little different. Had the corn crib over here. Parked their big sled in here up on its side to keep it out of the way. That's the old days, people. That is the old days and the old ways. I know this barn's over 100 years old. You can see that floor, what I was talking about with the wire marks. How it's just wore out from so much raking and straw and animal and people's feet. One thing this floor did not have, or this barn, was a set of stairs coming up from down in the bottom up into the loft. At least I didn't see one or where one could be. I know one thing, I'm gonna have to clean my boots good when I get out of here. They could have brought the, well, they did bring the sled in because it was in the barn loft, but they built the barn here with this bank. I imagine when they built the rock wall, they filled in behind it. They probably dug dirt off right here to fill in behind it, because you can see these exposed rocks right here. So I imagine that's where the dirt come from, to fill in behind it. Up there's Chestnut Mountain. And up there's the field that we farm. Usually grow corn up there, maybe sorghum. But I have done a barn video on this barn last year, and then there's an old log barn up in the holler behind this one. It's fallen in, and I done a video on that last year. You can go check them out if you've not already. I'll try to remember to link it down in the description of this video, but it's on one of my barn videos. There's two of them on there, that one, and then the old log barn up in the holler behind it. And then there's an old corn crib that they've had here. Didn't have no rat wire in it, I don't know. Be hard to say which one was first. I'd say maybe that one down there was first because it didn't have rat wire. Or maybe they added this corn crib up in the barn loft later because they wanted to have one that was rat proof. Anyway, beautiful place right here. This is, like I said, where they settled in the early 1840s, this little spot right here. It's been my 8th great-granddaddy, Jacob Metcalf. Or as we say around here, Metcalf. Well, as they said back then, madcap. Right down from the barn right here, this is that crib. And right here in this rock, a lot of times around the barn somewhere, they'd have a rock that they would use to salt their cattle. And they'd put salt, I'd say most likely in this little basin right here, and let their cows lick it. My grandpa had a salt rock down right beside of his barn where he salted his cattle. He done that to give them the minerals that they needed. But that is the old barn that was built from the old cabin. Folks, I'm glad you could come exploring with me today. I sure had fun showing you this old barn, sharing about it with you. I hope y'all are having a wonderful Memorial Day. Just want to tip our hat to all the servicemen and women that are serving this country. And today we especially want to honor those that have laid down their life for this country. That's what this day is about. We just want you to know we appreciate you all very much. This is Justro at Metcalf Mills. Hit that like button if you will. Subscribe if you ain't already. Tell your friends about us. And have a happy and blessed Memorial Day. I'll see you real soon.